welcome Ganza Moise. Welcome, Ganza. Book author and an independent filmmaker. He is a credited actor, published, of course, I've already mentioned it. Moise films find common inspiration in his observation of an in-between. He is an animated by interrogating what it means. What does that mean? But we're definitely going to come back to that.
That means a lot.
Yeah, and you have done a couple of work when it comes to creating films and then also books as well.
Yeah, I have.
Now, to just go right into it, why did you think of film? We understand that we have this idea of film in Rwanda would not make it. Well, a lot of people say it. Film in Rwanda are not like this, the quality, just tell us, how did you get into movies and film?
Well, that's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try. I started wanting to write comic books, short stories, maybe novels, but as I continued, it seemed less and more further for me to achieve it, whereas in film, I was getting some roles in some films, and I would act, and as I went on set, I got captured with the whole process, and I thought maybe the things that I write, I could easily make them into movies. Well, not easily, it's still hard, but at least I could see it possible to make movies faster than writing novels, I guess.
Really?
I mean, that's how it started. I'm not saying it's easy. For me, it seemed
For you, of course.
easy to finish a film than to write a novel.
Right. Now, we've just watched this movie. Of course, it talks about COVID-19 and what this moto guy was going through. Now, tell us, Muzunga, first of all, the name, and also tell us about this whole film.
Yeah, so Muzunga, I think I could translate it as vertigo. And yeah, I named it vertigo because I guess it's the general feeling of losing balance, and that's what encapsulates what the character is going through. And this film is it was an idea that I have had for a long time to make a movie about a moto guy, but because I find them very interesting, and I always have interesting conversations with each one of them, but I couldn't find a way to bring all those conversations into one character, so I sat on the project. And then the opportunity came to make a film visualizing the virus, and then I thought maybe I could use this character, and because I'm already interested in the aspect of riding, your job being riding around town and taking different people, having interactions with them, but also the thing that interested me the most about them is you'll find most of them are educated, and they have, not most, but the ones I've encountered, they have degrees in different things that they couldn't get work in. So I found that aspect interesting before, but then bringing it into this subject of how the pandemic affected different people. So yeah, I went from there, and it was a very tricky process. I couldn't find the right form, but yeah, it ended up being Muzunga, which is a film that is kind of going in all the ways, but it's mainly the effect of being alone with yourself, like facing the things that are wrong with your life, and basically being in the void because you're locked down. But also, the thing that this film came together after all those trials, thinking of how to bring a moto guy, and then his love aspect, or his financial aspect, or his mental health aspect, and then I got a clearer vision when I stumbled on a book that's about solitary confinement, people who are put in jail, but not like together with others, like alone, and
Yes.
how they are taken. They take from them the aspect of communicating
with themselves.
they take the human aspect of communicating with others, and then they find ways. They start maybe talking. They go insane if you look at it from a normal perspective. So I found that the words for lockdown is the same they use for lockdown, confinement, solitary confinement. So I was like, okay, maybe from here I can find a way to bring how it feels to be alone for a longer while, and yeah, I added some layers, and then it became Muzunga.
Right, now we actually look at of course, you talked about how the moto guys, we actually see it a lot. When we take one, we find one that even speaks better English than us. We have those ones who used to be journalists, but then now they've become moto guys. We have so many of them. Why did you choose to tell a story of a moto guy, precisely? Why didn't you choose yourself?
Me?
As an artist, yes.
I think I've done a lot of movies about myself, and I find my life not that relatable.
Really?
Yeah.
You might be shocked.
Oh, no. No, it's that I don't, the lifestyle I have is not the representative of the everyday life of people who go to work and do the normal things. I'm kind of like a bit particular. I have a weird schedule, so I feel like it's not relatable for me to always bring myself. But at the same time, the film is about, there are some aspects of myself in the character, but I found the setting of a person who encounters other people, and because some of them, they like to, I don't want to say talk a lot, but they like to interact, and
You can say talk a lot, because
okay,
I
cool.
talk a lot.
No, I find that sometimes it interested me to have a character who meets a lot of people in their daily basis and who rides around the city, and I find that if I imagine it, at least if I try to put myself in their shoes, having had a degree and not found a job and all these life issues, I think riding could also be an escape. So to me, the character was interesting. It was interesting, and we all see them. I take bikes, a lot of people take bikes, so it was a very relatable character to put in front of people instead of me putting myself there.
Right, now you actually mentioned that you are not interesting. Relatable.
I said relatable.
Relatable, my bad.
Yeah.
But could you tell us who is Ganza as a filmmaker? Who is you as a filmmaker?
Okay, that's a hard one. I would say I'm a filmmaker whose films do not look the same. If you see one and the other, you'll find that they are not similar in form, in pace. Sometimes the characters are not the same, but I would say as a filmmaker, I'm interested in people maybe in transitional periods in their life, or people whose fantasies or wishes in life meet bumps of the reality around them. Yeah, I would say, in simple words, I would say I make escapist film in the realities that we live in.
Quite interesting. Now, tell us the experience of making a film. How is that experience when you're making one, and how has it been so far?
So like I said, not my films are not similar. Some of them require a lot of time. Some of them are made on the fly. I shoot random stuff, and then the film comes in the process. So every film is different, but it's an exciting thing to do, but a challenging thing as well. It requires to believe. I don't know, to believe in the vision you have, to trust that even if you don't 100% know every element of what you're trying to show, that it's going to come together in the end if you keep working on it. So I would say it's, to me, every film is different, but the experience of making a film is exciting, and yeah.
What would you say are some of the challenges that you actually face when you're making a film?
Oh, wow. I think the challenges are, the ones I face are like any other filmmakers. There is the technical, financial aspect that I don't want to go into. But first of all, the first challenge is to know what you want. Sometimes that can be the most challenging in everything, because you might have funds and resources, but if you don't know what you want, you make a mess. But the other thing is, I guess, finding the right gear, it's the whole process, the right gear, the right people, the right place. I don't know. It's every challenge. I think it's the challenge of any filmmaker or anybody who sets out to do something. You have an idea, but you don't have the means, or and you have to make it regardless of the means. So the challenge is to find how to make that idea come to life. And yeah, sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's people, the people you know who can help. So it depends on every film. Like every film has
its own challenges.
Has its own challenges. It's like, yeah, it's like a child. Every child has its own needs. So yeah.
Right. Now you actually mentioned financials, which is something that we see, because you need financial support to actually get for equipment. You want for the dress-ups, the makeup, the artists,
paying people.
Literally paying from one person to another.
Yeah.
Tell me, how do you make sure you get enough investments? How do you reach out to the right people and say, no, I have this, I can bring this on the table, and it can actually create an impact in the society?
So if I take the example of this film, actually UGH reached out to me, so it's a blessing. Thank you, shout out to you. But usually sometimes there are funds, like there are general funds that you have to apply to, but that's a gamble. You don't always get them. So usually what we do is we are a small community of people. Some people have gear, there are some people who have skills, and you have to find ways to compensate their time. Not necessarily that you have the money, but you have to make it worth their while. So I think it's like really what we have is people. Like we are connected. We've been slowly making films. From it's been years. You borrow a camera, you borrow a recorder, blah blah, and then now it's years into making those not so fancy films. You find yourself, you have a network of people. You're in a small ecosystem, I would say. You know technicians, you know people who can film, who can light, who can take sound, and I guess you find the small amount of money in your pocket to make it worth their while. But other than that, it's the small connections you've built over the years that kind of support you, make people want to invest their time in your project, even though you're not paying what they usually get on a daily.
Right, it sounds like quite of challenges. You've been doing films for quite some time now.
Yeah.
How many years has it been?
I officially started in 2015.
That's like 6 years basically.
Yeah.
And how many films have you done so far?
Wow. It's hard to count. If I were to say, because there are some short films that you make experimenting, trying out some things with your phone, with, I don't know. So I would say about 6 or 7 short films. I haven't finished my first feature, but I'm working on it, so yeah.
Where can we find those films?
That's interesting. The distribution is also a challenge because when we make them, we usually send them to film festivals, and you try to get them to as many big stages like this one as possible. So with that comes the fact of exclusivity. They are not always on YouTube. They're not. I guess you can talk to me. This will be the simplest answer, but there are some on YouTube. There are some we've put on our YouTube, the YouTube account of a company, but there are very few. There are not all of them that I said are there, but some of them are there.
Right, now you actually mentioned some of them being exclusive, especially when you have to partner with an initiative, NGOs and stuff like that. Of course, you have to partner with them to create something for them or something that you can partner with. But then we also forget that we also have an audience. These people may not bring you money, but then they'll bring you the platform that you actually supposed to have. Because then, like you mentioned, you actually find yourself in a small, you literally find out that you actually have your platform whereby you have these people who are really supporting you. When it comes to that, on YouTube, what type of movies do you place there? And are these the type of films that are going to impact the people who are watching them? Or is just one of those short movies you take with your phone, you're like, let me see how it goes, let me see how it goes?
Even those ones that I take and let me see how it goes, they can impact some people. But I would say YouTube is a different dynamic where people go there for different things. I don't think if something is demanding of your time and if a film wants you to sit down and think, and you probably click next or go to another one. So the films we put on YouTube, we try to see if they match the audience there. But usually the ones we make are at least the ones I make, they kind of take time. I feel like I am a bit demanding of my audience, and I'm okay with that because I want to have I want to challenge them as much as I'm challenged doing them. So they are not. I wouldn't say they are 100% entertaining. They can impact. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to say something, I'm trying to express something or explore a certain feeling. So if people interact with them, they will definitely impact them. But by exclusivity, I meant we don't share them immediately because we want to show them to festivals and other places where a lot of people gather and they want to watch that film. With that being said, there are a few festivals here. We've shared some of them. They've been screened, but yeah, we're still working on how to bridge the gap between the films we make and the people who want to watch them, at least here.
Right. You actually mentioned the gaps. What would you say are the gaps that are already in the film industry, at least here?
Well, film industry is a big word. Personally, I don't want to speak for the whole industry, but in my experience, I would say that the audience at large isn't aware of the many independent films that are made from here, and it's not their fault. I don't think it's the filmmakers' fault either. It's just a gap. Like the films they want are maybe on the TV or on YouTube, so if they're not there, it's hard for them to find them. But also the filmmakers who make them, they have to live, they have to find ways to earn something from the efforts they made. So it's like there's a gap, but there's a gap.
Now, we understand that audiences are definitely different, and especially when it comes to if you have to put something there to create an impact or to just fit the audience.
Yes.
What do you do in order to say, no, I'm going to actually produce something that is going to be, that would actually be for a certain audience? Or do you just produce, it's an inspiration you get, you produce it and you put there, or you actually do it for the audience? Because a lot of times we see it. You may do something, the audience may not like it. And I'm sure right now you've already done your research about the audience here in Rwanda. What are you doing about it?
Well, I don't want to come off as a bit arrogant, but let's say that I know what the audience wants. Well, we have a lot, everybody has a theory of what the audience wants, the Rwandan audience wants. But I do feel like I make films first. I don't want to say I make films for myself first, but yeah, I do. Like, I make them because I feel like it's something that I want to put out, and maybe it will grow on them, or I'll find ways later to have them seen by Rwandans, because at the end of the day, 90% of them are in Kinyarwanda, so they are best enjoyed by a Rwandan audience. Because of the gap I said earlier, first and foremost, it's hard for me to make something thinking how to please the audience, because I would go nuts. But at the same time, I do think, like, I don't think the Rwandan audience has one mindset or one taste. I believe they're very diverse. So there's an audience for those films. I just haven't found them yet, but they are there. Or they haven't taken time to see them yet. So maybe on a good day, when they are chilled, even those who go on YouTube, they can maybe appreciate or hate the films I make. But I feel like I don't want to embrace the audience first. Like, that's very vague, because the audience, then they don't have faces, they don't have names. It's like, it's very vague. So personally, I feel like I make the films, and then distribution is a challenge to tackle, and that gap, I'm aware that it's there, but the only thing that I do about it is to make films, and we try to screen them. We have some initiatives we've done. There are some festivals here. There is a cine club we have, but yeah, there are some things we are doing as filmmakers who make films and who know the audience isn't very much aware. There are some things we're doing, but at the end of the day, it's not going to change the kind of films I make to cater them to the audience. No.
Right. Now, we actually see a lot of initiative the government puts in, especially when it comes to promoting arts and culture sector. There's so little that the government can do, and then the movement needs to start with ourselves. What are the filmmakers in Rwanda doing to actually say, no, we're going to promote the film industry, we're actually going to do it? Personally, as you, what do you think the filmmakers are already doing? Because I know we're already seeing the film industry growing. I don't really understand much of Kinyarwanda,
Okay,
but I really, the little I understand is enough, you know. But then I find myself watching a lot of Kinyarwanda series, short films, which are really interesting. What are the film industry makers doing to actually say, no, we're actually going to promote the film industry, not internationally, but we're going to start at home and then we're going to go outside? What are you guys doing in order to do this?
First, disclaimer, I don't want to speak for all the filmmakers. I'm speaking for myself and what I see. And I do think it's tricky to want to start locally, because we have a mentality of liking things that have been dubbed international over the local. So that's a problem. That's a character problem. It's a deeper problem. So if you want to start locally and only be locally, you will struggle a lot. But so to answer your question, I think the first thing the filmmakers are doing is making the films. Some filmmakers cater to YouTube and they do web series. They find a lot of success in that. others make films, and others of whom I'm in make films, and they first send them internationally and to come back here. But I do think, first and foremost, as filmmakers, that's our contribution, and usually there should be curators and other people to bridge the gap, but because we have to do everything like there, we will not wait for people to do that for us, so we try to screen our own films and have some, I would say, screenings, and there are festivals here, and some people who have worked in them are filmmakers. So I would say it's like small efforts, personal efforts, sometimes joint efforts, but it's not like an institution of filmmakers. We want to show Rwandan films, blah, blah, blah. Like it's still risky. Like if you premiered a film here, you're not really sure you're gonna make people pay, and they're gonna, like, it's not something that's been done over the years to know there's a culture, there's a way that's set. It's like we're still working in, you know, we're still paving the way. So I would say each is doing their own, because at the end of the day, like you said, you watch series on YouTube, and some people are making them, some others are making TV series. So I feel like the first contribution of filmmakers is making films and try as much as they can to get them seen. But after that, I guess everybody tries. Me, I try to send them to festivals to show them, and when they are old enough, when I deem them old enough, I put them on YouTube.
Right now, what would you say is the one thing that we should do to promote the film industry in our country?
Watch the movies. Watch the movies. Yeah, because people have been making movies for like more than a decade now, and try as much as you try to go on the market and buy those Philippine movies, watch also Rwandans. Like, you know, incorporate them in your schedule because they are there.
And what are you doing to actually change people's mindsets to watch the Rwandan movies? Because I'm gonna tell you, there's a huge audience for you guys. You just don't know that they're there.
We know, but at the same time, sometimes you are judged on a different standard. Like, for example, sometimes someone watches your film and they appreciate it in a comparative way. Oh, you don't do like the way I see those do that, like, all I'm going to say is watch the films. They are there. I know there's a huge Rwandan audience and they are hungry for films. They watch them, but yeah, I feel like it's coming. It's coming. We've been making noise here and there, outside Rwanda, inside as well sometimes. But yeah, I feel like it's coming. The gap is gonna be bridged sooner or later.
Most definitely. Now, talk to me about documenting the crisis during this time. You doing this movie about COVID this time. Talk to me about this movie, especially when it comes to this.
The process of making this movie.
Not just the process, but doing it and how you did it and why did you do it.
Okay.
You know, all of it together.
It was first and foremost interesting to make a commission project because I hadn't done many before, so
right.
It was a challenge I was up to. I wanted to do it, but at the same time, I was here during the pandemic. It happened to me as well, so it's something I was eager to tell. Yeah, and I was obsessed by the moto driver thing or whatever. So those, I think, are enough motivations, and of course the funding.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the motivation. But making it took me like, I sat on the project for like 2 months thinking how to bring it. I wanted to do so much, but then in so little screen time. I wanted to show how he takes care of his family, how he takes care of his family, blah, 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 how he has this whole romantic relationship and how, so many things. And then it started to feel like I have 3 movies in one and I don't know where to go, 3 directions at least to go into. And then I was researching, reading that book, and yeah, I felt like I'm gonna. The most important thing to me was to feel, to show the feeling of how it feels to be confined, when especially your job is not essential. Because in the movie, the girl who's selling airtime, she'd been working. She's not like him. They have phone conversations, but yeah. So the process, I shot. I was still, even on the day of shooting, I was still like jumping in two different directions. Like maybe I'll go here, maybe I go there. So I shot enough to cover me, and I felt like I'm gonna make the movie in the editing. So what I pitched was a broad idea, but as the time it got smaller and more confusing. Yeah, because I'm not used to making films that I promised I will make and that I got funding to make. So it's an interesting adjustment. So yeah, the shooting was quite smooth, and yeah, we had some fun. We had a lot of fun. The guy you see does not actually drive bikes, but yeah, for the purpose of the movie, he did. And then I left it for like 3 weeks, and then I came back to editing it, and it was intense. It was intense. So yeah, I think in the end I found a middle ground of what I wanted to show, how much it affects him to ride, how much it is for him as a character, and then how stagnant it feels, and the changes, like like the way, because the pandemic was new for even the authorities. They've never faced something like this, so they were kind of as well learning, trial and error. So that, to a person, it changes when you're meeting a lot of changes to you. There are a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of not knowing how tomorrow is going to be like, and all that. So yeah, I wanted to show. I found a perfect middle ground, and yeah, but the process was scary at first. Yeah, I'm used to making small movies that are not funded, and then I found the freedom in the lacking of resources. Now I had resources. It was something, but it was interesting, and I'm glad I did this project.
Well, we're also glad you did it. Now, to just before we wrap up this discussion,
Yeah.
tell me how you think art, filmmaking, anything that comes in the creative industry can be incorporated in the health sector, especially when it comes to sending a message and keeping people, like you said, balanced. When it comes to, especially looking at this crisis, a lot of people needed that message that would keep them alert and everything. Why do you think it's so important to actually have art in health?
Well, because as a person who spent 6 months and plus inside, I watch a lot of arts. I consumed a lot, and it helped not feel the tiny space and the slow pace of time. So first and foremost, I do think even before giving the message, art itself is a form of therapy and a form of communication, where a person is alone, but they feel like they're not alone. If you live in your own small ghetto, but you have like a radio that you blast, it feels like a huge space in a small house. So yeah, arts first and foremost is, yeah, it's a way for people to release the pressure. But then secondly, because we all consume images, like if you have a smartphone, you're probably like always on the screen watching videos everywhere. So I feel like it's a media that is already being used. So if health is to be brought, if there's a message to be sent, it's easier to sneak up on people in their routines, on things they usually see all the time. So I think it's
it's a medium that works, I would say. It's a medium that works, people use it, people consume it. It's part of people's lives, so yeah. I
Well,
think, yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Ganza, for your time.
Thank you.
For the amazing movie, and we're so looking forward to actually watch more of them.
Thank you.